Hello, you guys. How's it going?
Hi.
Pretty good.
Good. So it's really weird to be welcoming people to an event, given that I can't see anybody. Usually, I'm looking at a crowd of people who hopefully had like some wine and some chocolate and, have been milling around the store for a while. And these are different circumstances. But I'm very excited that we are launching Becky's new young adult novel, which is Far From Normal. And we have Becky, and with Becky here today, we have Miranda Kenneally. So I'm going to briefly introduce these two wonderful authors, and then I'm going to disappear. I don't know why I just did that hand gesture. That was weird. Okay. No, stop! Don't continue repeating. So, Becky Wallace. Becky Wallace is the award-winning author of The Story Spinner and The Skylighter. Stealing Home was her first YA contemporary novel, and we are here to talk about her latest, Far From Normal. She's a sucker for slow burn romances, near-miss kisses, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Becky worked for a minor league baseball team as an editor of a sports marketing magazine before settling down in Houston, Texas with her husband, 4 children, and 1 very fluffy puppy. If she's not writing, you'll find her baking sweet treats or pretending she's still a competitive ballroom dancer. Mm-hmm. And Miranda Kenneally, the author of 4 Days of You and Me, as well as the much-loved 100 Oaks series, enjoys reading and writing young adult literature and loves Star Trek, music, sports, Mexican food, Twitter?
Well, okay, that needs to be updated. Sorry.
What?
That should be updated, I guess.
Loves Twitter. She is from Tennessee, but now lives in Arlington, Virginia. So, welcome to both of you. We're so excited to have you guys here. For everyone watching, you can post comments whether you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter. Feel free to ask questions. Like I said, I'm about to disappear myself, but I will be watching those questions and comments roll in. And at the end of our lovely authors conversation, I will pose your questions to them. So get your brain question.
Yes,
that. Yeah.
Questions. So we will try to answer them.
I'm going to remove myself from this narrative, and I will be back in something like 20 minutes to half an hour. Take it away, ladies.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anna, and thank you so much to One More Page Books in Arlington, my absolute favorite bookstore in the entire world, for hosting us tonight to celebrate Becky's new book, Far From Normal. And I'm so excited to be here with you, Becky. I feel like I've known you online for
like 1,000 years.
Yeah, a long time. But I've never actually spoken to you in person, so it's a pleasure. And I'm so happy to talk to someone who I feel has very similar books and tastes to mine. I love your books, and I'm excited to talk more about them. So. Just to jump right into it, tell us about Far From Normal, out today, everybody.
Well, yeah, thank you. So before I tell you about Far From Normal, I just have to say that Miranda she's like a hero. I told her she's been a hero of mine for a long time. So I met her 10 years ago on Twitter because she still loved Twitter back then. She probably still does a little bit. But and I remember reading Catching Jordan and thinking to myself, gosh, I would really love to do this someday. And I finally moved that direction. I finally moved in the rom-com contemporary romance direction. And so Far From Normal is very much, it's as much comedy as it is romance, I think. It's about a girl named Maddie McPherson and her first summer internship. She's going to be working for her aunt's sports marketing company in Chicago. And she's so excited that she's going to be able to help famous athletes use their star power for good, except for that when she actually gets to her internship, she spends way more time fetching coffee and sorting through tabloids. And, my house phone's ringing, but whatever, like we have a house phone still. Who has a house phone? I do.
Hopefully someone will answer. My dog is actually looking around. My dog is going.
Anyway, sorry. So she's at her internship, and it's not quite as exciting as she thought it was, and then a kind of unfortunate chance encounter lands her a top assignment with a kind of hot and a little bit naughty Italian soccer star, Gabriel Fortunato. And he is everything she's heard about him, but he is also a lot of things that she doesn't expect. He's sweet and he's charming and he's very, very private, which complicates her job and her feelings. So that's kind of where the story starts.
No, thank you so much. And I just have to say, I love the book. I had such a good time reading it. It was one of those books where I was sitting there thinking, why didn't I write this? I
feel like all of your books, every single one. It's so true.
Well, so some of the things I really liked about both Far From Normal and your first contemporary novel that you wrote, Stealing Home. One thing I really love about these two books are your two girl characters, your main girl characters, Maddie and Ryan, is that they have lots of street smarts. And, as someone growing up, I had a really tough time with school, frankly. I mean, I wasn't very good at it. I certainly wasn't good at, I wanted to be better at certain subjects. I wish I was better at math, for instance.
Me too.
And so, I had to work really hard at school. I didn't do it very well. And so I appreciated how much you showed, Maddie, who wasn't, his, typically, book smart, working hard to kind of accomplish her goals. And I really liked, I'm always telling people, like, if you really want to do something, you've got to go out and work really hard. And so that was my favorite thing about Maddie is she didn't give up. She kept working really hard. And so I'm kind of hoping you can talk to us a little bit more about, how you came up with her character and what made you decide to write about, a teenage girl who's so interested in sports publicity.
Sure. So my first job out of college was actually working for a sports marketing company in Chicago, and I was 21. And I learned very quickly that there wasn't a lot of room for women at the table when it came to the sports marketing business. They kind of had their token female seat, and that was all that there was. And we did have interns. We actually had several interns that were between their senior year of high school and then their first year of college. And they were smart and they were hardworking, and they did a lot of great things that they didn't get a lot of credit for. And I really felt like that there was a story there that, here are these young women who want to succeed, who want to break into the sports world, but it's just really, it's still difficult. Even, I haven't worked on that job for 13 years, but even 13 years later, right now, there's only 2 female CEOs of sports teams, 2, which is ridiculous. Even in the WNBA. So, I still feel like it's a place where there's room for women to grow and for women to really step into high power jobs there. And, I wanted to give Maddie a chance to do that. But I feel like our characters kind of hold hands. Our characters are similar in a lot of things. So, one of the things that I loved about Catching Jordan is that Jordan is kind of the same way, right? Like, she is trying so hard to make her way in football, and she has this big shadow over her head, and she's stuck in her brother's shadow, or she's stuck in her dad's shadow. So what was it about Jordan that really motivated you to write her character to be that girl?
That's a hard question. I mean, I'll be honest. I wrote Catching Jordan. I think, it was 12 or 13 years ago at this point, and a lot of it was just that I've always, it goes back to what I said before. If there's something you want and you want to go after it, and it doesn't really matter who you are, as long as you try hard, you can get somewhere in it. You may not be, Jordan's obviously not probably going to go off and play in the NFL or anything, but she can certainly play for, her high school team. And
Right.
I really just wanted to show that, girls can do things that guys can do. I know it's pretty simple, but gosh, it's been a really long time since I've written it. And I've definitely grown up, I would say, since I wrote that book. I'm a totally, different person from then, but really, I think it goes back to girl power. And also I've always really loved sports and just enjoy them in general, and wanted to write about sports. And so that's kind of where it came from. And in high school, I really enjoyed, I felt like a lot of my friends were guys. I still had some, girlfriends. I had more girlfriends than Jordan did, but I really liked hanging out with guys, and kind of wanted to write that
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that from that point of view.
Yeah.
And so, well, going back to your characters, so are you like your characters, like Maddie and Ryan? Like, do you, are you kind of like a real go-getter like they are?
I feel like most authors have to be hungry. Like, we have to be hungry, because there's no one in this business that's going to give you a leg up unless you're willing to go out and get it yourself.
That's true.
And so I feel like I've channeled a lot of that into those two characters. It's hard to be successful at anything if you aren't willing to work for it. And really, the only way to be good at writing is to do it.
And practice,
right? I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, totally. I mean, I am not any natural born writer. I'll tell you that. I've had to work really, really hard to get stuff down on paper, teach myself how to do it, read tons of books. Like I read a ton, so I can, figure out how to do it.
Right. That's actually something that I've started doing more this year. Is I've never done I learned I needed to know more about the craft. So I've been reading a lot more craft books to kind of teach me how other writers do it, so I can do it faster, so I can do it better, so that my first drafts can be cleaner, or that I can revise them and make them cleaner before I submit them to my editors. But I mean, it's not sitting down. It stopped being a hobby a long time ago, right? Like, writing isn't just for fun. Writing is something that I do very seriously, and I put a lot of energy in. And clearly you do too. I mean,
it's your job. It's
how
your
many
job.
books do you have out now?
Oh, geez. I think I have 10 out. My 11th comes out next year. But yeah, it's really hard. But what are some of your favorite craft books?
So I read Jessica Brody's Save the Cat Writes a Novel this year. And I had, I've heard of Save the Cat before, and I've even played around with the Excel spreadsheet that they have online. But it wasn't really until I sat down and I saw how in that book she fits the Save the Cat model to every genre. And she gives you 5 different types of books or 5 different storylines. Some of them are very familiar that fit from every single genre. And I remember this year looking at that and thinking, okay, I can see how this would make my process faster. But then it also helped me understand why some genres have certain, ghost stories. They have the monster in the house. And I had never heard of it referred to as monster in the house, but every ghost story has a monster in the house. Every ghost story has a sin, whether it was the ghost sin or the main character sin, there's some sin that has to build up to, where you're currently at in the ghost story. And breaking down story like that was really good for my head, because I never really thought about ghost stories that much. But now I can't stop thinking about ghost stories, because I've read so much about how to write a really great. That's what I really would like to do, is write a really great ghost story.
I hear you. I just couldn't do it without adding kissing scenes and banter. It wouldn't be very scary. Just really quick before we get back to talking about your new book, but one of my favorite craft books is called 20 Master Plots. Okay. And I really like to write from my intuition. I've said this before in the past, but I actually heard this from my 7th grade science teacher. I don't know if it's true or not, but my 7th grade science teacher always said, your first intuition is right, almost all the time, like 90% or more is right most of the time. So I always try to follow my intuition, both in my writing and in my life. And but I'm obviously not, the best writer ever. So like it doesn't always come out perfectly. But what I like to do is use 20 master plots, which has these checklists. And the checklists actually help me go through and, figure out, hey, do I have all of these things in this specific kind of plot? Whether it's a romance or coming of age, or it even has like horror or suspense, mystery. It has all the 20 kinds of master plots, and it's been really helpful for me over the years. So just to throw that out there.
Sounds good.
So let's go back to Far From Normal, which is kind of, talking about cute romance is probably more interesting to some people than our craft discussion, although some people might really appreciate it. But so the guy love interests, in your books, we have Gabe in Far From Normal, and we have Sawyer in Stealing Home. They're both, up and coming sports stars, but they really come across as like regular and, very sexy kind of normal guys. And
that's good.
and what I really liked about your girl characters is like, yes, these are very famous guys, but like they can keep them in line. They keep them humble. And, I think that, there are a lot of girls out there who really like reading about, the girl who kind of snags that famous guy.
Right.
But, I think some people have said in the past, some stories like that could be considered cliche.
Right.
But I didn't really feel like that, about your books at all. They felt very real. And so I'm kind of interested to hear, like, how do you keep, a famous character down to earth? How do you give that, the readers like that fantasy they're looking for, but still keep it like realistic?
Sure. So the good news is that I did work in minor league baseball. And because of that, I had a lot of interaction with a ton of really well-paid athletes. And the thing that amazed me was that I would say, if we had 40 guys on the team, we had 36 guys who were really, really generally pretty good dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had 4 guys who were total jerks, right? That they're the ones that give the rest of the team bad names. And I feel like, we only hear about the bad things athletes do. We don't hear a lot about the good things they do. And there's in the NFL, you might know about this too. They have the Walter Payton Award for the athlete or the football player who has done the most good
charitable,
most charitable stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about that until the day the award is given. You don't know what they've been doing all year long. And I really feel like sometimes just guys get a bad rap because that's you never hear the good, you always hear the bad. That's why we have TMZ. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love me some TMZ, but they're generally really good guys. And I really wanted to, when I sat down and wrote both of these books, I really wanted to make sure that I didn't write alpha males who were icky, right? Like it's okay to have a guy who's in charge. There's kind of an attractive quality about a guy who's willing to be in charge. But I also felt that it was super important that they were flawed, and that they that they had a backstory, and that that they had some real heart. And I tried to pull on some of the experiences that I had or some of the people that I knew to kind of build those characters in a way that felt really authentic.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I think you definitely succeeded. They felt very real, and all of the details in your contemporary books, feel very vivid. You have really great details, and so Stealing Home, which I didn't really announce earlier, which is about Ryan, whose family owns a minor league baseball team and field. I love this book. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
you said you worked for a minor league team. I don't know. I got it in my head that maybe you owned a team. Is that true, or did I make that up?
We had no staff. Like it was me, the general manager, and one marketing guy. And so I actually hired my entire family to work for us, and they worked for like literal pennies. They worked. My dad was the team photographer. My little sister, who was 8 at the time, like she helped set up promo events. My sister, that was just older than her, she was actually my assistant, and then my brother was our mascot. So we didn't technically own the team, but we had a huge share in making sure that everything went smoothly. And honestly, it was such a gift. It was such a gift to be able to spend that time with my family, and to work with them in a way that was fun, and not a family business, but not a family business. And we all look back on that time and really laugh. But it was it obviously laid the foundation for these stories. Because there's no, I don't think there's really any other way that I could know like what the tunnels inside a minor league baseball team, a minor league baseball field look like, unless you've been in the tunnels. And so I hope that gives it, I hope that feels really real to a lot of readers, because it was really real to me.
No, it's totally, no, that's really interesting. And yeah, it's funny because that does make your stories more authentic. And with some of my sports books, I definitely will say, I've gone out and really done that sort of research. Like, who do I know who can get me into a stadium like that? And it's so funny, the sports I didn't know very well, where I went out and I like really learned them, like horse racing and swimming, which I didn't really understand. And I went to a lot of trouble to go learn them. And then, I remember like soccer, which was, the sport I played in high school. It was so funny to me because I remember after my book Defending Taylor came out, and it had, a lot of soccer in it, and people were like, Miranda just like looked this stuff up on the internet. It didn't really,
and you're like, no, I actually know that one.
Well, it was interesting. I don't think I put as much detail into the soccer because I knew it.
You didn't have to. Yeah, because it was in your head. Yeah.
It was in my head. But like these other stories, I was like, I got to like write every little last detail into them. So it's kind of interesting. It really paid off for you, having these vivid details, because it really makes the story come alive.
So what about Jesse's Girl, though? I mean, Jesse's Girl is music instead of sports. Like, are you a musician?
I like to sing a lot. I love karaoke. I was in my school's show choir in high school, and I actually got I don't know if I've ever actually even really told people where the idea for Jesse's Girl came from. Jesse's Girl is about a young musician, and she gets the opportunity for her school's career day to shadow this famous country music star. And I actually got the idea because in high school, I was being a total smartass for career day, and we had to like write down what we wanted to do. And, different people were saying, silly things. And so I wrote down I wanted to be a country music star, which was sort of true. And like my school actually like got me, somehow they got me this like backstage thing in Nashville to like hear the Dixie Chicks talk or whatever. And so that's kind of where I got the idea. But I was like, what if I made it like, the girl meets the hot guy, So,
yeah. But I mean, our stories are similar in that aspect, that we kind of had like, a little hint of experience that we were able to work into our stories.
Yeah. I mean, Jesse, a lot of people have said, oh yeah, he comes across, my character Jesse from Jesse's Girl comes across as pretty real. It's interesting. I don't really know any famous stars though. So I just kind of based him off a normal person. So who knows?
I thought he was great too. I feel like he's another one that he and Gabe were kind of like, they have a lot of similar character arc growth, I feel.
Yeah, they do.
Girl and Far From Normal. So
they do. I really liked reading about Gabe though.
I mean, it's Italian, it's an accent, it's, it makes him kind of cute.
Oh, well, yeah. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Of course, it makes them cute. So, with Far From Normal, so I think you mentioned earlier, you said you worked at a sports publicity, company when you were, like 21. Did you ever do like a big city internship, or is this like when you were a teenager, or is this sort of all based on your work?
So I didn't actually get to do a big, so I mean, I'm from Utah. I'm from like a small town, and the furthest I'd ever lived outside of Utah was Idaho. I lived in Idaho for like 9 months. So Chicago was a huge jump for me. And my mom was like, seriously, you think you're gonna go across the country and you're gonna make it? And I did great. I loved Chicago, and it was such an amazing experience. But I really feel like it's an experience that a lot of people need to have. Like, get outside of your own town and learn public transportation system if you come from a place that doesn't have public transportation. And it was, that's where I was able to use a lot of that, small town girl in the big city, because that was totally my experience. Was, I remember, and the thing is when you live in Chicago's really expensive, right?
Oh yeah.
And we coming from Utah, they were like, oh, it's you gotta live somewhere super safe. So all of my money went into rent, and I mean, there were times where I couldn't even afford public transportation. So I walked to and from work in the cold, right? Because it was so expensive. But those scenes along Lake Michigan, those are scenes that in some ways I was like, oh my gosh, I remember, the sand tournaments, the sand soccer tournaments. And I remember people crashing their bikes, and there was, and people's dogs and people, I wanted to really work that. And I wanted to make sure that I gave Chicago a good rep, because I really did love living there. And I feel like the setting plays a huge part in that story, and the food. I mean, food.
Oh yeah, the food in Chicago.
Yeah, right. So I had to make sure I worked in all those good details, because in some ways, Far From Normal is my love letter to Chicago, I guess.
I love Chicago too, and it was interesting. So my next book that's coming out sometime, I think in 2021, like toward, I think, September.
Right.
This is how much I know things. I write the book and have no clue.
And then it just happens.
And then it shows up one day. But it takes place. It's going to take place in Chicago too. So this is like, because I love Chicago as well, the food especially.
Yeah, the food.
But it was funny to me when I was reading Far From Normal. I was like, so much of so many of the things that you pointed out, I point out as well. But
yeah.
I've lived there. Well, I wouldn't say I lived there. I did like a temporary work duty assignment for like 8 weeks, and I got to know the city, fairly well. So.
Well, good.
The food anyway, but
everyone's gonna all the Chicagoans are gonna love all these Chicago books, right? As long as you keep giving Chicago a good rep.
I hope so. I mean, you always run the risk of like making some mistake
error,
about
right?
the city, and the people are like, what is wrong with you? Like, you don't know this city, like, because you left out this very crucial detail. And I'm like, oh,
like, it was the brown line, not the red line, and you're like, oh, how could I forget which train line it was? I'm sorry. Yes, totally true.
Yeah, I did in my book, Jesse's Girl, actually, I did like a scene at the Grand Ole Opry. And this is one of those instances where, I'd never been backstage at the Grand Ole Opry before. I'd been there, but I'd never been backstage. So I just like made up, what I thought sort of the backstage looked like. But like I left out this detail, like all of the doors like look a certain way, like they have these big stars or something. And someone was like, "You can tell Miranda's never been
backstage at the Grand Ole Opry."
I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
You're like, "Good, yeah." Nope. Yeah, those
so now I do a lot of bored Googling images,
No, you're like, Google 360. What can I watch? Looking at the street level. Yes.
This is how you change as a writer over the years.
So true.
Readers are smart.
They are smart.
You cannot pull one over on your readers. No. Like, you never should try to, because they will catch you.
Get you every time. So true.
As they should. So, you're both a contemporary and a fantasy author. Like, how do you do both? I don't understand this. Like, I can't write fantasy to save my life. So
I started in fantasy because I thought I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I really do love fantasy, and I really love to read well-written fantasy. But fantasy is really hard. And I found that to be fresh and to be interesting and, I didn't want to recreate something that had already been done as far as in a fantasy world. And it got to the point where fantasy was so much work that it wasn't any fun anymore. And so that's when I kind of like mentally, I made the shift to writing contemporary, because I was like, I need to be able to enjoy what I'm doing. It can't all feel like, brow sweat, armpit sweat labor. Like, you shouldn't be sitting at your computer sweating. Like, I feel like there's something wrong if you're doing that. But so that was part of the reason I've made that switch to contemporary, is just because sometimes you can sit down and, when I wrote Stealing Home, there's no city, there's no Buckley, Texas, which I did intentionally. It's just set in the Texas Hill Country, and there is Texas Hill Country, and I've been there a lot. And so I was able to create a little town in the middle of Texas that felt realistic. And, and with Chicago, I lived in Chicago, and I was able to do that. So those things that you spend, like, I remember, with fantasy, there was the time where you'd like Google, and you'd be like looking for like 4 hours for what type of leather baldric was made from, right? And then it doesn't end up even mattering, and you're spending all your time trying to research for something that's completely inconsequential, except for to some readers where it's super consequential.
Oh yeah,
right. Totally. And I realized that I wasn't enjoying that as much as I was just sitting down and telling stories kind of from my heart and from my head. And I still love fantasy, and I am working on a fantasy right now, but it is more historically based. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if anything comes of it, but I was able to use real research. I didn't have to make up stuff. I didn't have to make up things. I was able to, stick to hard details. So fingers crossed that it'll go somewhere.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think historical sounds even scarier than fantasy to me. It's like, historical, it's like, can I use this word? Did this word exist?
Is that a French word? Was that French word around?
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Like, my character ate a sandwich. Well, had the word sandwich been invented yet? Like, it's scary stuff.
So true.
I can't even write about the Grand Ole Opry. How am I going to write about this?
How am I going to write about the Earl of Sandwich, who wasn't even sandwiching then? Yeah.
So I my next question, I stole from Parnassus Books in Nashville. Where I'm from near Nashville. So I know they ask, like, their visiting authors this question. So what is the one question, like, all of your books are trying to say? Like, what are you trying to ask? What are you trying to get across, with all of your books?
I really feel like, especially, actually with all my books, that girls and young women are much more powerful than they're often given credit for, whether that's, on a fantastical side, or whether that's in a business, on the business side. I feel like we've read hundreds of years of men being super successful in novels. And I'm glad that I've been able to sit down and write stories about girls who feel realistic and believable, and maybe even to encourage some young woman somewhere to follow their dream, or to fight hard for that thing that seems just out of reach. So I guess that's what it is. I guess it's kind of girl power. Girl power.
Yeah. I love it. That's great.
I think yours are though too.
Mine's all about girl power. That's what I care about deeply.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I work, I'll be in meetings at work, and I'll find myself looking around the room, and I'm like, it's me and like 20 men.
20 dudes.
Yeah, 20 white dudes. And, and so, when I hear like, a woman gets promoted or gets a big job, I'm like, girl power. And I say it to the men too. I'm like,
together. Yeah. Well, good.
Well, speaking of girl power, so, being a writer is your job. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your other hobbies?
Well, I have a million children, so they're kind of a hobby. Actually, I have 4 kids. I don't have a million kids. I have 4 kids. They keep me very busy, but I actually really love to cook, which is not something that I would have said 10 years ago. I was really happy with casseroles 10 years ago.
Okay.
Now I like to make, I really love to make food, and I love to make food for other people. But so I guess food has become my love language, because I volunteer and help out with a food pantry in my area, and it's been very fulfilling to see people get fed through my efforts, which is pretty dang awesome, and I really love that. I really love being involved in my community, and like this week has been crazy for me because on Saturday I have I'm coordinating 150 volunteers to work at the Houston Food Bank, which is so awesome, and I love it. But it's a hobby, but it's also a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It's a wonderful hobby.
Thanks. What about you? I mean, I know you love sports. So what do you do besides write?
I love reading. I try to read. I'm reading all the time. When I can't sleep, I read. And so I don't sleep very much sometimes. So I love reading. I have my pets. I have 2 cats and a dog, and I like to spend time with them and with my husband. It's bad. I love watching TV.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And movies, and I like playing Nintendo. I'm a big Nintendo fan. And as I said earlier, I really like going out to eat. Haven't been doing a whole lot of that lately, obviously.
Probably not. Hopefully, lots of just have you been able to get takeout?
Yeah. It was funny. Like for the first 2 months of COVID, we were a little too scared to even go out to eat, and we are not good cooks, and so it was really bad. I was getting like super thin. I was like, wow.
That's what happens when I feed myself.
yeah, I'm not a very good cook. I kind of, I eat pretty much the same thing every day for almost every single meal, except for when I go out and get my Mexican food or my pizza. So I wish I had your cooking.
Well, you need to come and just visit us in Texas, because we have tons of Tex-Mex here that you will absolutely love. We need to find a book event. Come down. I'll take you to all the good Tex-Mex places. We'll make sure you have all the chips and salsa you can handle.
I would love that. So here in just a couple minutes, I think we're going to go to some questions from our listeners, but just a few quick more questions from me. So what books have you read lately that you've loved?
Let's see. I read. Hold on, I have to look. I actually read a ton too. I feel like a lot of authors have to read a lot just to keep fresh and to know what's out there. Mm-hmm. So I've been reading Maureen Johnson's Nothing Stays Buried series. So the first book is, I can't remember what it's called. The second book is the one I just finished. It's called The Vanishing Stair. It's really good. It's mystery. It has like a historical element to it. I read Christina Lauren's Twice in a Blue Moon yesterday, it's just super lighthearted rom-com. I read Charlie Holmberg's The Will and the Wilds, which I absolutely loved. It's actually an adult fantasy, but she writes this demon, and you love the demon and you hate the demon all at the same time, and she does it in such a way that you're like, you can recognize masterful writing, right? And so, I mean, if you need a fantasy to read, I really liked The Will and the Wilds. Mm-hmm. What about you? What have you read lately?
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that.
What have I read?
Yeah. Let's see. I liked The Roommate, which I probably shouldn't say. We might have YA listeners on. I probably shouldn't say what that was about. But it's very, very good. I read The Air Affair, which I like, which I really love. That's the sequel to the Royal We. I finally got around to reading. I don't know why I put it off for so long, but Mary Pearson's Kiss of Deception and the Vow of Thieves books. I just ate those up.
I have all of them right behind me.
They're so good. Those were other books. I was like, why didn't I write this? Like, why don't I have it?
So good.
All right, so now it's time for my favorite, my speed round. So you have to answer as quickly as possible. All right, are you ready? Okay. All right. What is your favorite sport?
Football.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
I am an all-day person. Both.
Okay, fine. Favorite place you've ever been?
Bryce Canyon in Utah.
Oh, okay.
National Park. Go visit it.
Okay. I've only been to the Salt Lake City
airport.
To the airport.
Love it there.
One day I'm gonna go there to Tahoe. Let's see. Tell us about your worst haircut.
Well, we're finally growing back hair.
Your hair looks beautiful.
So I had this mullet a little bit with my hair. So I had cancer this year. And I had to do chemotherapy, and my hair was growing back. And I had this kind of really fluffy Bob Ross thing happening. So we have improved from Bob Ross. Although I probably didn't get Bob Ross for Halloween just because of it.
Well, I think it looks beautiful. Looks very chic. I wish I could, do that to my hair. So do you like cake or the icing?
I'm going to go with icing.
That is the correct answer. Dogs or cats?
Dogs. Just because I have one and my kids are allergic to cats.
So who's your favorite Avenger?
Captain America, and I feel like I love him. Like that he my characters are Captain American-y characters, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
I used to think he was kind of a goody two shoes, but now I like him a lot. So as the series went on,
like Winter War. You got a little bit of the other side of him. So
yeah. At first I was like, God, this guy's boring, but now I love him.
Mm-hmm.
So do you drive or do you take mass transit?
So if I can walk, I will walk. But in Texas, we don't have a lot of sidewalks, so there's a lot of driving happening here.
Yeah, I kind of figured. It's more of a city question. I was like, maybe I should take this one off. But I'm actually kind of interested, always kind of interested to hear what people do.
I mean, we walk to school if we can, so it's good.
All right, what cheers you up?
I love fluffy rom-coms, like either to watch or to read. They always make me happy.
Me too. I love them.
That's why we write them, right?
Yeah. Okay, coffee or tea?
I drink Mountain Dew Kickstart. So that is my answer. Like, although I love the medicine ball from Starbucks, which is like, oh my gosh, if you're sick, it is the best stuff for a sore throat. It's got like the jade and the peach tea together, made in lemon juice. It's so good. That's my official sick person drink.
I guess I'll have to go try it. I'll be honest, I haven't been to Starbucks in years.
Well,
I always go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, so I buy the ingredients and I just make it at home now.
Tell me how to do that.
It's good. Saves me a little bit of money too.
All right, one more question, and this is actually kind of stupid. I'm not sure why I have it on my speed round, so I left it for last. But how do you define success?
That is a good question. How do I find it? You know what? I think happiness is success. Like when you found a place that you're truly, honestly happy, then that's successful. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to actually get to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, how about you?
How do I? It's interesting. I feel like to me, it's almost relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working so hard for so long. I've been I've been writing for well over 10 years, and I've been in my day job for 18 years, and I've just been working nonstop. And I'm finally getting to the point where I'm like, I think I'm going to spend this Saturday afternoon napping.
which sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, but the guilt I used to have is kind of going away.
Which is good.
So I'm going to say relaxation.
I think that is a great answer. So should we loop Anna back in? Anna, are you out there?
Yeah. Anna.
I'm here. Sorry, I was a little worried. My cat has decided to like wake up and start being active again, and I was afraid I was about to get bitten a whole bunch and be like fighting off an animal.
My dog came and barked at the door. She was like, "Let me in."
I heard the dog barking, and that is charming. What is not charming is my cat biting me and me like shouting swear words at our lovely viewers here. So we have a strangely quiet audience tonight.
That's okay.
We have no questions from them, but I will ask two questions.
Okay.
Of both of you, just in case people are waiting, trying to work up some bravery. First of all, describe your ideal writing circumstances.
That's a good question. I guess currently, so like everyone's been home for like 1,000 years, right? We've all been stuck in our houses for 1,000 years. And I have this lovely office, right? I have this big bookshelf, and I do not work in here. I don't work in here even when I can work in here. My husband works in here now. Honestly, like a quiet room with my headphones in and my big drink next to me. That's probably like my big blanket like wrapped around me. I can't be too cold. I gotta be like cuddled up. That would probably be like the best situation for me. What about you, Miranda?
Every summer, at least once or twice, we go to Rhode Island for vacation, and for some reason, I do my best thinking and writing there. I'm not really sure why. It might be, the copious amounts of ice cream and alcohol and lobster. I'm not really sure.
Would do it,
but when I'm there, I tend to have really good ideas. Or at least what I think are good ideas, anyway.
They are good ideas.
Anna, do you have a special writing place?
I mean, you're looking at it like this is my. I love when I feel like there's been this trend lately of authors posting these beautiful writing spaces on Instagram in particular. And I'm like, my writing space are those collapsed cushions there at the edge of the couch. That's it. But ideally, I really do love to work at night. I try not to because I try to like leave nighttime for like family and sleep.
Right.
But earlier in the pandemic, when I was really trying to like work to a deadline, I had about 6 to 8 weeks where I would work through the night, starting at like 11 p.m. and then I'd go to bed at 8 a.m. and then I'd get up at about 3 or 4. And I did awesome work. I would eat like chips and fruit snacks all night and be like wrapped up in my blanket and have like my like perfect silence. So yeah, that's either total silence or absolute anonymity. Like if you're out at a coffee shop, like no one needs anything from you. I mean, they shouldn't need anything from you there. You can be left alone. And then the other question.
I have a story for you on that. I have to tell everyone. So I was on a plane once, and I was writing my book, Breathe, Annie, Breathe, on the plane. And some old white dude was like, "You actually think you're going to get that published?"
And you're like, "It's under contract."
Like, so rude.
And I was like, "Well, I think it sold like 2 years ago. So yeah."
Yeah, I anticipate it's going to be published per my contract, but thanks, guy.
Bye.
We should all, I feel like maybe I shouldn't say it. I just feel like everyone needs a certain number of like, thanks, guy, like stickers that they just have like maybe every season we get a re-up. And anytime a straight cis white dude just offers an unsolicited opinion, you can just be like, thanks, guy. Like, I don't have any response. Anyway, other question for you both. What books, are there any books YA or otherwise, that are coming out in the next, couple of months, in the next however long we know about books that are coming out. What upcoming books are you excited about is the question I'm trying and failing to ask.
I actually just ordered the new Amy Kaufman Megan Spooner book, The Other Side of the Sky, on my nightstand. It's on it. So, but I have to finish this draft that I'm working on, and that is my gift to myself. So
that's you mean The Other Side of the Sky, right?
What did I say? Yeah, that's what I meant.
That was really good.
I actually provided a bookseller quote for that for their social media.
All right.
You have a lot to look forward to. Get excited.
Hey, it'll force me to finish my book faster.
Faster.
What about you, Miranda?
I want to read, I have no idea what it's called, but it's the new Naomi Novik book. Does that come out?
Yes, A Deadly Education.
Yes, I want to read that. But it's pretty bad. I'm like, I know she has a book, and I know it's coming out soon. I want to read it.
It's out a week from today.
I loved Uprooted and Spending Silver, so I'm excited for that. What's the Fourth Ember in the Ashes book?
Oh,
This is how bad I am. I'm like, I have no idea what these books are called.
Storm Beyond the Sky.
Yeah.
Like she always like in Twitter, she always like does it under an acronym, and I'm like, but the name of the book is
A Sky Beyond the Storm.
Sky. She just calls it Sky. That's what she calls it. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to read that too. I'm so bad.
That's not bad.
I'm like, I know there are books that they're called something, and I will find them eventually.
I will get there.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody's read Sky. I feel like that book is locked up pretty tight. But I have read Naomi Novik's new book. I had an arc of that, and oh my God, it was so good. I got to the end, and I was like, oh, this is a great ending. And then I read the last line, and I put it down, and I flopped back on my collapsed couch cushions and went, ah! at the ceiling. Because the last line in the book is this, like, twist.
Oh, no.
And I'm just like,
no.
Anyway, the point is, it is good literally to the last line. I had a huge hangover when I was done with that one. So
no,
it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm trying to think, because I'm gonna answer this question too. Return of the Thief, the last Megan Whalen Turner book.
Oh yeah.
It's coming out, I think, in October, and I am super excited for that one. And we're also getting new Holly Black and new Leigh Bardugo this fall. The sequel to King of Scars, and I'm blanking on the name of that one.
We're really good at authors' names and less good on their titles. But hey, you can pick them up at one more page.
Seriously. The Rule of Wolves. The Rule of Wolves. It's coming out in October, I believe. And we're getting another Cruel Prince book, which is called How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, and it's about Cardan. And I loved the Cruel Prince series.
It was so good.
I haven't read it.
So you need to. We need to make that happen for you.
It's so good. It's so good. I also have somebody who wants to say hello.
Hi, is that Salem?
Yes, this is my evil kitty cat.
Oh,
one that will bite you.
Salem.
Say hi, buddy. Say hi. He said I was gonna bite you on the nose, but people are watching, so maybe I won't. Anyway,
thank you so much for having me and for arranging all of this with our magic hands.
Magic hands.
What was that you did? I can't even do it. All I know is the Van Halen. Whoop, whoop,
that's amazing. Well, guys, you can buy Becky and Miranda's books from One More Page. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And anything else, or should we tell them to have a good night?
I say have a great night.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Stay healthy, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.